Hello, and welcome to our last Bright Future Friday session. Today we have some wonderful individuals from the business industry as our panelists. Really excited to have you all here today. Make sure you're dropping questions in the comment section. We are looking forward to answering as many questions as we can throughout the session. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Tanera, who's going to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I'll take my hat off so you can see me a little bit. My name is Tanera Cullens, and I work for Biohabitats, which is a consulting firm, environmental consulting firm, located here in Baltimore, Maryland. But we have offices all over the country. And I guess I'm not going to dive too deep into what I do, I suppose, but I'm out in the field right now, and I'm getting some good views out here. So I'll wait until I get a few more questions and we dive a little bit deeper, but hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kristen Booker. I work for Baltimore Gas and Electric, which is the local utility here in Central Maryland. I've been with the utility for about 12 years now, and currently I'm leading our workforce development efforts for BGE.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandro Flores. I am the recruiting coordinator for the Baltimore Orioles. I've been working there for about 3 years, and what I do for my job is to help bring on interns, part-time, full-time, and any person that wants to work and get an opportunity with us. I'm the person, I'm the guy, so I'm very excited to be here.
All right, well, thank you all for your introductions. Y'all do really interesting work, so I'm really excited for us to get into this. All right, so our first question that we're going to start off with is, what was your first job ever and your first job in a business-related field?
So my very first job I got when I was 14, and I worked for a law office, actually. I was an assistant, and I had the great job of organizing all the files that were in boxes and putting them onto a computer. As you can imagine, that wasn't the most fun job, but it was an interesting peek into the world of business. I suppose my first job in my field that was kind of businessy. Prior to the job I have now, I worked at a nonprofit called Baltimore Ecosystem Study. And there I was in charge of creating curriculum for students in Baltimore City, mostly high school students, but some middle school students as well, about the environment and trying to bring in elements of math into all of our environmental curriculum as well. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Well, my first job was at a grocery store, which is local to the Pittsburgh area, called Giant Eagle. It's much like a giant grocery store down here. And I worked in the bakery. So I started out just working the bakery counter, filling bun orders, cookies, etc. And then I showed some interest in learning how to cake decorate. So by the time I ended my time there, I had learned how to cake decorate and can still do some basic things today. My first business-related job was while I was still in college. I was working for a bank as a bank teller, which with great experiences for customer service. This is back when people still actually went into the bank every week. So Friday afternoons, you'd have a line out the door with everyone coming in to cash their paychecks. But it was a great first professional experience for me. And then my first position out of college was at T. Rowe Price in their investment operations area, working in mutual fund accounting.
That's awesome. I took a more non-conventional route. So my first ever job was landscaping. And so just landscaping over the summers. I think I was 16, 17, just landscaping, mowing the lawns, the weed whacker, all that good stuff. And actually, I still enjoy, and it's funny, I still kind of judge people's lawns because I used to do the work. So I'm like, oh, that person needs trimming, that person needs this done. So those things never leave you.
Don't come by my house, okay?
I know mine looks awful right now. And then the first ever business related job in the field that I am right now is actually kind of a long story, but I'm going to shorten it and just say that it was a part-time job working for a Medicare agency providing direct care services to folks with disabilities. So I started off as being one of those one-to-one caretakers for two guys that had autism from my church, and that eventually that part-time became a full-time, and then eventually they gave me a full-time job in HR, which is how I'm here. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you all for sharing some insight into your kind of the beginning of your careers. Excited to kind of learn more about kind of how you ended up where you are today as well, once we get further on into the session. But yeah, so our next question now, we're kind of going to shift gears and have you talk directly to our youth workers and provide some suggestions that you have when applying or interviewing for a business-related position or just kind of any position. What are some of your tips?
So I think one of the things that's really important about interviewing is making sure you understand that it's not just the interviewer interviewing you, but you're also interviewing them. So if there's any questions that you have about a business or how things work, or even like work-life balance, things like that, those are things that you should ask as well during an interview. So never be afraid to ask questions yourself, because you never want to work somewhere and you don't really understand what it's like, the culture is like in a place. So that's my number one tip. I think also, even if you are underqualified or not qualified at all, never be afraid to apply to something, because you never know what someone's looking for. And so you might have a skill on your resume that really kind of tips you over the edge. And some people are definitely willing to hire you and train you rather than not and miss out on an opportunity.
That's a really great point. I think a lot of times, especially with women, there's been studies that show that we'll look at job postings and we'll see the qualifications and we'll be like, oh, I don't meet this one, and we don't apply, right? And we exclude ourselves right off the bat, whereas our male counterparts are like, oh, I have 99% of them, I'm going to apply. So I encourage all the young ladies out there to definitely take that to heart. I would say when you're applying, make sure that you're tailoring your resume for the position. It's great to have I would say a canned resume or a standard resume that you use with your experiences, but look at the job description, really look at the keywords that they have in there, and make sure that you're highlighting those specific points in your resume and making them prominent. Everyone's looking for something different. And each job is looking for something different. So you might have opportunity to just reword something, to highlight something a little bit more prominently. You might have an opportunity to take something off so that you can add something more relevant. But, always keep, I would say, a running master resume, if you will, of all your jobs and your experience that you can pull from and tailor and tweak as necessary as you're applying for new opportunities.
Yes, those are great points the two of you made. I think the one advice that I would give would be just to take a deep breath. I think oftentimes I get resumes that were tailored for a sales job for another company, and you just sent it to this current employer. And so that oftentimes creates a lot of questions, and that's kind of like that's an automatic red flag if you are, say, applying for a job for us, and then I get a resume tailored for like a waitress position, and it's like, wait, I think you didn't mean to apply to us. Yes, you did, but you sent me the wrong file. And I guess number two would be do your homework, like know the company that you're applying for, because I'm going to ask you questions based on what you love about us. I mean, obviously everybody likes the Orioles, but do you know about our volunteering programs? Do you know about our Orioles Reach? Do you know about the community impact that we have here in the city? And so it's also investing a little bit, because that'll go a long way. The rest we can teach you.
Well, those are all really great tips, and I appreciate you guys being really honest and candid with your comments there. So we have a question here in the comments section. Was there ever an interview that you had where kind of the person who was interviewing you was rude? That's the question we received, and I also want to add on to that. How did you kind of deal with that situation?
I have not experienced a rude interviewer, but I think one of the things you have to learn in business is how to deal with adversity. So even when you get a job, there will be plenty of times where you butt heads with someone else, and you've got to be able to keep your cool, because they have something that you're trying to get. So if I'm in the interview, maybe it's a trick. You don't know. They could be being rude to see how you deal with it. I don't know. But I think it's important to keep your cool. And if it's something that goes over the line, then make sure you report that to someone, because it's never appropriate for someone to cross boundaries in terms of rudeness to someone.
I haven't experienced that either, but I will just to tack on. I will say that if you do experience this, that is an opportunity for you to take a step back personally and think, is this the organization that I want to work for? And really start to dig into the corporate culture. It could be a one-off, right? Where, this is just someone who is having a bad day and this isn't representative of the culture, or it could be indicative of the culture that of the company. So you'd want to continue to do your homework and make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and being in a place that's going to be healthy and supportive of your career goals.
Yes. I have experienced a rude interview, and being part of a rude interview. And as a person who now interviews folks, I really try to do the opposite, just to make everybody feel comfortable and feel wanted in the interview. I think that's a big key. I think as human beings, I think there's a little bit of anxiety when we have to go in front of someone and perform. And so a lot of times that interview is like you're selling yourself, you're performing. And so I would definitely say, again, I'm going to go again, take a deep breath. Make sure you're communicating with the person that's going to interview you or the company. Check in 2 days before, check in a day before, check in 45 minutes before, so that there's that line of communication. Because if let's say you run a little late, or perhaps you're there too early, make sure you're letting people know, make sure you're communicating, so that on your end of things, you're kind of covering yourself. So you go in, you pretty much go in, look, I did everything I was supposed to do. I came here early. I studied up. And if they continue to be rude, then yes, you definitely have to go report. But take a deep breath. Make sure you're communicating with somebody.
Definitely, yeah. Communication is key, especially within your interviews. I really love that idea of just making sure you really take that deep breath. It can really go a long way. All right, so I have another question in the comments section. What are some of the hardest parts within your jobs? Or what is something challenging that you have to face?
I think so I'm in consulting, and one of the things that's very challenging, I think, when you're a beginner and even when you're seasoned in the job, is trying to find the right balance of time, because there's no real set hours. You have a specific tasks to do throughout the week, and you kind of set your own schedule. And it's really easy to say, oh, I want to finish this project, or I want to keep working until I finish this thing today. And you look up and you've done a 60-hour week instead of a 40-hour week. So I think that's one of the hardest things, is making sure you set boundaries for yourself and make sure that you stick to them.
That's a really good one, and I find that particularly difficult in the virtual environment right now, because many of us are working from home still, and it's very easy to pop down. I work downstairs at my house, pop downstairs and answer a few emails or do some things. And the next thing you know, you're missing that work-life balance that, theoretically you should have more of when you're working virtually. I would say with my job, I'm in workforce development, which is in the corporate community impact department at BGE. We build a lot of relationships with community partners and nonprofits throughout the region. And one of the hardest things that I have is when someone comes with a wonderful proposal or partnership and we're just not able to support it at the time, just being able to, respectfully decline and walk away, even though we know that they're doing great work. It just doesn't fit with our projects at the current time. So that's one of the things. Telling people no is something that I always struggle with.
I think one of the hardest things about my job or doing within my job is I think is people management. Being in HR, obviously, we deal with requests every day from every corner of the company, every corner of the ball club, and it is really just having the mentality of, okay, whatever happens today is not personal. If I have to direct somebody to the supervisor, I'm going to have to. If I have to answer a simple email or perhaps share a detail about something, I will. If I have to follow up with somebody, I will. If I have to turn them down because they were rude to a customer or whatever, I may have to address that as well. So I think it's definitely people management and conflict resolution, but having a team around you that supports you and has your back, I think is also important for you to do that. But that's pretty much what it boils down to for me.
Great. So yeah, we've definitely learned a lot about like how to deal with conflict so far through our conversation today, and I think that's really something that you should all bring with you when you're starting your jobs. And I know we talked about that some in our Wisdom Wednesday sessions. Cam was definitely bringing up a lot about kind of how to work through different conflicts that you face within your life, not just in the professional sphere, but throughout. So I love that theme is coming up again here today. All right, so to kind of flip that, let's talk about what we enjoy most about our work.
My answer is the same. I really enjoy the flexibility. I think I really just don't like the 9 to 5, to be honest with you. I'm a really early person. So if I can wake up at 6:30 and do 8 hours of work and then be done really early in the day, or if I want to sleep in and start my day at 10:30 and do 8 hours, or do 5 hours today and 3 hours tomorrow and make it up somewhere else, I really enjoy that. That's the thing that I like the most. That and I like working with an interdisciplinary team. So in my office, we've got engineers, landscape architects, foresters, other scientists, people who are super into math, super into map making. So like stuff like that, I really enjoy working with those types of people.
Awesome. So I'll take it even broader. And what do I like about working at BGE? So I've been with the company about 12 years now. I think I've had 5 different roles in my time here. And I really like the opportunity to try new things and be involved with different initiatives and projects within the organization. Right now, I have the opportunity to work very closely with local nonprofits in our schools, which is super rewarding. And just, we have our team has a really great time doing that every day. But then I've also had the opportunity to run our corporate PAC, which is the Political Action Committee, which helps support local officials who support sound energy policy. I've also had the opportunity to work a little bit on marketing projects that support projects that I have been leading. So just the variety and the options keeps every day new and exciting, which is something that I really enjoy.
That's awesome. Going to be hard to follow up, but these 2 great opportunities here. So I think for me, what's the most enjoyable part about my job is giving people opportunities. So I think that the flip side of managing conflict with people, it's actually giving them the opportunity when things work out. So if an intern was really needing that internship to graduate, or if somebody out of college just is applying and where they're applying to an entry level and they're really nervous, I really like coaching them through that. Or if it's somebody like me who took the unconventional route and took a seasonal job, then a part-time job, then a full-time job, I always root for the underdog as well. So yeah.
Nice. Well, the O's overall can be considered an underdog too. So trying to help them out as well. No,
Yes.
jokes aside, I appreciate your comments. And I see kind of a similarity there with Tanera and Kristen in terms of like either interdisciplinary individuals that you work with or interdisciplinary projects that you get to work on. I think it is a great opportunity to have kind of a variety of things to do your work on throughout your experiences. So that's awesome. All right, so we have at least a few questions here that just popped up in the comment section. Keep them coming. So here's a question. How do you all balance life and work?
Great question.
It'd be a tough one.
So right now, that's something that I'm practicing still. But I use a calendar and I have a checklist. And so I try to schedule in my life within my work. So if I have, a doctor's appointment, or if a friend is coming back from New York and I want to see them and they're only there for that one day, I try to say, okay, during my lunch, I'm going to go see this person and then I'm coming back. Or, maybe I'll take off half a day and only work half a day. I try to do that so it's not like I'm working and not enjoying the fruits of my labor. But yeah, checklists really save my life.
I make checklists, but usually what I want to do for the day never really happens. But that might just be a me problem. One of the things that I like to do is really schedule out my day and make sure that I'm allowing the right amount of time for a specific task, and not minute by minute, but really know what I'm going to do that day and what I need to do and how to get it done in the time allotted. I had a friend recently who said, be where your feet are. And I thought that was very powerful when talking about your schedule. Like if you're on your schedule, you're supposed to be work, stay off your phone, stay off of social media, stay focused and get that done. And then when you're done working and you're with your family, or maybe you're relaxing and playing video games or checking social media, like do that for the amount of time, and you can focus that for the amount of time that you're allotted to. And then, when that's done and you have chores to do or other responsibilities, you focus on that. And that'll, I thought that was super powerful because, a lot of times we try to multitask what we're doing. And quite frankly, no one can really multitask and do two things well at the same time, right? So basically everything's getting done kind of halfway. So if you practice, and I'm continuing to learn how to practice it, be where your feet are and focus, you're able to get more done and just feel like a greater sense of accomplishment and relief at the end of the day.
That's great. I think that the two of you really hit it. I think I'm going to add a little bit of my element to it, and I would say definitely put away your personal devices, kind of like Kristen said. I think there's a lot to be said about the environment that we're in today. It's very digital and so many little time wasters. Instagram, Facebook, a text, I have to call them back, or we don't even call back. We just text again. And so I think it's really putting that aside and then just saying, okay, how much time am I going to give myself now to do X, Y, Z? How much time am I going to give myself to do a leisure activity? And then that's how you, right, structure is how you really manage that. If you're a person that struggles with structure, then I would say there's something in the way, and that's usually your personal device. So I would definitely say put that away.
Yeah, well, that was all good advice, and I appreciate you guys sharing kind of your personal experiences. I know growing up, maybe through high school and college, I have to admit, I didn't really use a planner a whole lot. Looking back, I wish I did. Would have saved a lot of time, spent a lot less nights working. I know someone asked, do you like working at night? No, I do not. But I was doing it in college, and unfortunately, like I kind of wish I wasn't doing so much of that. I just got my work out of the way. So definitely take heed to the advice that you're receiving here. Appreciate it. All right, so let's jump over thinking about like earlier we are talking about suggestions for when you're applying or interviewing for positions. So even before that, and I guess also within your work, what are some of your networking tips? How do you have those conversations? How do you reach out, and kind of where do you even start?
I'm a do everything until someone answers you type of person. So networking wise, like if I'm looking for an opportunity, I will send an email, I will call, and pre-COVID, sometimes I would even, knock on a door and say, hey, I saw that you're looking for this type of person, or you're trying to fill this type of job, and then say, can I have lunch with you? Or if they're not available, say, well, when can I? And try to schedule something. And that way, they remember me. No one's going to forget somebody who's super persistent. That's been the thing that I do the most. I think another thing that I do is try to go to like conferences or even things like this. I'll try to reach out to the speakers and see if they have opportunities, if they know of people who have opportunities. I am a chronic collector of cards, so I've got all kinds of information on people that I've met, and I try to stay in contact with them. Forgive the bird in the background. I think also I've used my past connections to bring me forward. So like the job that I have now is because of a person that I met when I was in 10th grade, so someone that in your class, or a teacher or a counselor, somebody has information about something. You just never know who's going to be the person that helps you get the opportunity that you want.
Those are all great tips. So I am an introvert, so networking doesn't necessarily come natural to me in general. I'm on the more quiet, reserved side. I would say that if you're like me, and even if not like me, make sure that you practice an introduction of yourself. Like nothing's worse than going to introduce yourself and then tripping over your words, which I've done many, many times. And then also, if you're someone like me who tends to get a little bit nervous in those situations, make sure that you have some questions already prepared in your mind that can help break the ice and start a conversation. That's usually the most difficult part, right? Is just kind of starting that conversation. And then the final thing I would say is take every chance you can get to practice it, right? It's like any other skill. The more you practice something, the more comfortable you'll be with it, and the more natural it will be in the long run.
Again, really hard to follow up after these two great tips. But I think one thing that, as a recruiter, I go to events, job fairs, and I think the number one thing is to not be afraid to ask the question. Like, hey, what do you do for a living? You're obviously not asking for a salary range, because I think that can come off as very rude and off-putting. But hey, what do you do for a living? XYZ company, the Baltimore Orioles, or, looks like they're hiring a full-time marketing coordinator position. Like, what can you tell me a little bit about that? Or even further down the line, like, hey, how did you get your start? How did you? So for me, is not being afraid. Again, is that little anxiety of performance. Just don't be afraid to ask the question. Most people are super kind to answer your questions, and it's also, I guess, in the manner in which you're asking. If you feel like you have to ask, and you feel like you're here because somebody else told you, then people are really perceptive, and they can already tell that you're not here to have a good time. But most people are very kind, and they love to answer your questions.
So I think the biggest takeaway that I got from all three of our panelists was definitely to come prepared with questions, and if something pops up during the interview or the conversation that you're having, whether you really want to ask, just go for it. We did have a comment asking what questions should we not ask, but I'd also love to hear any questions that you guys are thinking of that are like really good questions to bring to like a networking conversation.
What questions should you not ask? I'm not sure. I think as long as your question is asked in a mature way and it's not disrespectful in any kind of way, that there's not really a question that you shouldn't ask. And I actually want to push back a little bit on Alejandro, because I think you should definitely ask about salary, but it shouldn't be the first thing that you ask about. It is important to know, how much money you're going to be making, because you need to know if you can pay your bills. That's just the reality of life. But if you're just like networking and trying to get to know people and really understand the culture of a place, ask about those things. Ask about the culture. Like, okay, I am a scientist. I want to know that the position that I'm in or the position I'm applying to, how much science are we actually doing? And how much of it is outside, how much of it is inside. So I'm doing field work right now. And when I was asked to apply for this job, that was one of the questions that I asked. I said, hey, I like being outside. I don't like sitting at a desk all day. So how much of my time will be spent doing what? And I think, questions like this, questions about the culture or about time, or what does a typical day look like for you? Things like that are really good questions to ask.
I think when you're I think the salary question should really be left during the interview process. Personally, I wouldn't say ask it when I was just networking with someone. Also, probably stay away from asking someone's age. I've seen some interns that have worked with me in the past would like inquire about age, and it comes from an honest curiosity, but it can be a little off-putting to others. So I would refrain from saying things like that. But just think of questions like general curiosity about the company or the individual's career path. One thing that I've always seen or noticed is like people like to talk about their career path and their journey, and they like to help other people as well. So if you're honestly curious, ask those questions that will help someone just share their career path.
Absolutely. I guess just to clarify a little bit on the salary range question, if there's an opening, a job opening, and you want to know about that and how much that pays, that's great. Absolutely, ask it. But if you want to get to know me, my journey, and where I come from, and hey, you're Hispanic, do you speak a third language? Like, I've gotten that asked before, and I would stay away from that. I know it comes from a place of like genuine curiosity, but. Or like, hey, I know that Chris Davis makes XYZ, and you work for the Orioles. Do you make XYZ? I would, and then you follow it up with a nice like, ha ha ha. I'm like, I think you meant to be funny, but instead, why don't you ask me, hey, so what was your journey? Kind of like what we're doing today. What is your journey? Oh my gosh, it's so thankful. Bilingual must be, a really great asset with the Orioles. And I would say, yeah, absolutely. But anybody can learn Spanish. And so that creates a conversation instead of like just coming hard judging at somebody. Or if you are definitely curious about, hey, how did you do it? What can you teach me how? That academic, hey, can you teach me? I have a lot of questions. I think that goes a long way instead of like coming at somebody and saying, how did you do it? Like, you of all people, how did you do it? That's definitely a different topic.
Well, thanks for clarifying there. I think those are definitely great tips all around. You guys are really bringing it today, so I appreciate it. All right, so let's go with another question here. So kind of off of that, we're already kind of sharing lessons learned, but what are some specific lessons you've learned from your current position? And if you haven't yet, maybe share kind of how you ended up in the position you are working in today.
So I guess I can go back to something that Kristen said. One thing I think that helped me get to where I am right now is being able to hop from like project to project to project to see what I like. So in consulting, you do have that opportunity to do that. Like I'm doing field work right now, but it's a specific type of field work. I'm working with vegetation. So I'm learning different types of plants and where they grow and what's best for them and where I can grow them in different places versus like doing a wetland delineation or going out and doing construction management or something like that. So I think that's one cool thing about what I'm doing right now. How did I get here? Networking. So it kind of falls back onto my last response. But I was in this program, kind of similar to, I guess, kind of similar to YouthWorks. But I was in this program in high school for 9th through 12th graders on networking, social skills, career skills, things like that. And I just used to talk to everybody. I used to talk to the other students. I used to talk to the teachers, the counselors. And there was one gentleman who I just kept in contact with because I became friends with his wife and friends with his kids. And he was having lunch one day with someone who works at my current job. And he just started talking about me. Oh, yeah, there's this girl that I met when she was in 10th grade. And I don't know how the whole conversation went because I wasn't there. But then the person who's at my job was like, I want to meet her. I have an opening that sounds like she would fit that. And so, I got a phone call, I had lunch with somebody, and then I kind of landed where I am, which is kind of cool. Doesn't always happen that way. Because I won't say that I applied for this job. I didn't look for it. I was working at a nonprofit. But yeah, it was all through networking. That's how I got here. I will say though, skills wise, so I had some of the skills they were looking for, but not all of them. So I've definitely had a lot of training on the job, which I think is an important thing to throw out. I feel like we've said that throughout this, but just to hone in on it, even if you don't have all the skills, a lot of jobs will hire you and train you.
Yeah, that just willingness to learn is something that we, at BGE, we always look for. We know not everyone's going to have all the skills that we need for every position or most positions when they're hired, but it's just that desire to learn when that comes through in the interview. That's something that really stands out. So how did I get where I am today? Well, at BGE, I got to my current position really by, continuing to have an open mind and that willingness to learn. There was a project that I heard about that I thought was super interesting, that would work with a local nonprofit to start a program to help connect people in our community to entry-level positions in the construction industry. It wasn't something that was necessarily in my group, but I volunteered to lead the project team that was exploring the opportunity and really mapping out what the path forward would be. And that turned into a new position at the company, which I was selected for. And so I think a lot of it is, keep taking your head up sometimes and looking around your organization and seeing what's new and interesting to you, and just asking the question, hey, is there a way that I can get involved with this? they don't know what you're thinking in your head. Your employer doesn't know what you're thinking in your head. So if you don't express your interest in new things or share with them, and it won't happen all the time. You're not going to always get to do exactly what you want to do at any specific time, but at least you get it out there and you can start talking to folks. And when opportunities do come up, you will be able to be connected to them and considered for them. And, you know, because I showed the interest, and then I also made it known that I'd be interested in continuing forward with this work, and a whole host of other things. But I was able to move into this position where I'm currently at.
That's awesome. Yet again, you ladies make it really hard for me to follow up. So I am going to try my best to add something different. So I would say, considering everything that was just said, I think that the one thing for me, a lesson that I learned and how I got here, the lesson is never underestimate the power of a seasonal job or a part-time job. My parents, my family here in the US, we always lived paycheck by paycheck. And so what you're preached on at home is like, when you leave this house, you better have a lined up full-time job with benefits, and you better have everything straight. In life doesn't really work that way. I took waitering jobs. Like I said, I took landscaping jobs, and in all of those jobs, you know, you accrue and you gather these skills, you network with folks, and eventually that little part-time job may lead you to HR, may lead you to sales, may lead you to, you know, social work, may lead you to wherever you want to be. And then you earning that gives you the opportunity to apply to a better job. And so I think you get paid to learn. So everywhere you work, you are learning, and you just, you know, you just don't, you know, hang back, throw your feet up and say, okay, I made it. The first day of your job, you always learn and you continue to grow. So that's my little tidbit to all the other great things that were said.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah, once again, I have nothing to add. You guys are killing it. So we have another comment here. We kind of went over this a little bit, but the question is, should we not take a job based off the pay? And that, for me, I would say it depends. But I'm curious what you all have to say.
I will also say it depends. So, I guess let me give a little background for me. I used to be a teacher, so I taught for 4 years, and I had some health challenges, which caused me to have to leave the teaching position and then go on to do something else, but I was getting paid less. So I had to figure out, was it worth it to stay in a place, deal with the stress and the health challenges while I was teaching? Should I go into something that has less pay, but also less stress? And so I think you have to think about the whole opportunity, the pay, the environment, what you'll be doing, what you can personally handle physically, mentally, emotionally. Those are all things that you should think about. Money is important. You do have to be able to pay your bills, but you do need to figure out what things you can trade off for. Sometimes a job has less pay, but really, really great benefits. And that's also something you should take into account, because benefits can outweigh pay any day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it honestly depends on your situation. I think that pay should not be the number one factor when deciding where you want to go. There might be instances in your career journey where you have to take a job because of your circumstance at that time, because of the pay. And if you ever do find yourself in a situation like that, what I would challenge you to do is, you know, do what you have to do for the time being, but then be actively seeking something else that's going to make you more whole as a person in the long run. I've seen many people just get themselves burned out because they stay in careers. They call it the golden handcuffs, right? Where you don't leave because the salary's too high and you have a lifestyle that requires that salary. I've seen plenty of people kind of burn themselves out because of that. So just always keep in mind, how you can continue to move forward, and looking at the whole package of a job, how it impacts your life, how your work-life balance is, how your health is, what the benefits are, what the schedules are, what the vacation policy is, all those things matter. What the unspoken rule about working after hours is. Some corporations, people work basically around the clock. Others, don't operate that way. So all those things like play into the decision, in my opinion, on, on a position, and if you should stay somewhere long-term or just use it as a stepping stone in your career going forward.
Yeah, I feel like I could listen to Tanera and Kristen all day, just breaking things down. So you ladies are a great 1-2 punch. I think the thing that I would say about this particular topic is recognize that we live in a society that's very, I need to have things now. And so I've spoken to young people right out of college, or just, young 20s, late teens, already having a mini life crisis because they don't know what they want to do. And, am I going to find purpose in life? And so I think definitely, examine yourself. Like, what are you really looking to get out of a job? If you need to get experience first to then later apply to the job you want, then I would say, hey, take that with a grain of salt. Okay, I may need to do this for a time. If you're already getting out of you're burned out at one job, don't take on another job that's going to burn you out even worse. Like, definitely understand where you're at in life, what season you're at in life, and understand that things take time. It takes time to get used to a job. Perhaps you were there the first day and you hated it, but after a week you're like, okay, this is not too bad, and then like after a month you actually kind of enjoy being there. Or the opposite can happen too, like the first day you love it, and then like a week later you hate your coworkers, and then by the end of the month you're ready to quit. Like, so definitely take everything with a grain of salt. Take a deep breath, examine where you are, and if an opportunity that you like presents itself and it looks good, go for it. If it doesn't, take care of yourself and then re-examine where you are again. But to say that you're going to find fulfillment in a job, I think that's up to you.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for such thoughtful responses. And I only have one more planned question here. Kind of just a culmination of what we've gone over so far. What advice do you wish you had received as a young adult when starting off your professional journey?
I think I wish that someone had told me that I don't have to be perfect. Because I was thinking, I've got this biology degree. My first job has to be in biology. I just knew that I needed some job that was in that particular field. And that's not always the case. And that's okay. You don't have to immediately, and you probably won't immediately find something in your field right out of college, right out of high school, something that you are super passionate about and brings you the most fulfillment. It sometimes takes a while to find something like that because you're still learning about yourself. And so I think, I wish someone had told me that I don't have to be perfect, but also to take my time and really figure out the things that I don't like. What are the things that I can probably live without, and then work my way up from there. And then you can find something that you're really passionate about.
That's great. I wish I had been told that you are responsible for your own career journey, right? I grew up I was first generation college, first one, I think, for my family to have a professional corporate job. And, I saw my parents with very strong work ethics to just like put their head down and worked and worked and worked. And what that was always told to me is, when you work hard, it'll be recognized. Well, that is true, but then also you have to be an advocate for yourself as well, which is something that I learned later in my career that I wish I would have known a little bit earlier. So there's a fine balance, right? You can't go to a job and be there for 3 months and be like, I want a promotion. You have to really demonstrate your value. But, making sure that you are in charge of your career journey and you're doing the work, you're networking, you're planning, you're having conversations that'll help you grow and move into ways that you are interested in and you want to pursue.
Yeah, I think for me, the one thing that I wish, if I can go back in time and just tell myself just to slow down. Super worried about like the next day, and I was forgetting to live the moment. Um, the quote unquote the sin of comparison. I was comparing myself to other people, and I just graduated, or I just took this part-time job, and look at my friend, he's got a full-time, or you know today we look on Instagram, TikTok, and we see all these people, Jeff Bezos with a gazillion dollars flying to space, and really just slowing down. I'm in my lane. I'm going to stay in my lane, and then I'm going to grow on myself and work on myself to grow. Um, and take the time, be patient. Building a career takes time. And if I'm going to just apply for a job and just go gun ho applying, click, 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 click for a week, and then completely forgetting to follow up with people when they actually reach out, I'm not helping myself. So it's taking the time, being intentional, and really working on yourself to get those jobs, because nobody's going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself.
I think you raised a really good point about comparison is the thief of joy, right?
Yep.
And in our world right now, we always see like everyone's highlight reels, right? On TikTok, Instagram, wherever you see the best of the best, and you see everything that's just wonderful. But what you don't see is the hard work and the disappointments and the setbacks that people face along their way in their personal life or in their professional life. So, what Alejandra was saying, like, make your plan, work your plan, focus on your plan, and don't worry about what's going on beside you. And don't let that steal your joy, essentially.
Great.
Yeah, exactly. And if we think back to some of our earlier sessions, we had a Wisdom Wednesday session specifically on social media and being wary of those comparisons and really taking time to do self-care. So I love that that's coming back. A lot of these themes are coming back as we finish up our last session. I hope all of you have enjoyed your experience with YouthWorks this summer, and that you got a lot out of this session, that previous sessions were helpful. If you ever have any questions or want to follow up with us, feel free to do so. In the past, we've shared some of the contact information of our panelists, and maybe we'll do that this time as well. So feel free to share any contact information that you all have, panelists. And Alejandra, I know you brought up some job opportunities from a link that you shared. So I'm going to put that in the comments section. Do you want to speak on that at all, or just that if you're
Sure.
interested, jump on that?
Sure. So this is how I got the job at the Orioles. So it's on Teamwork Online. Teamwork Online is major leagues, I guess, job board, where all teams from across all sports post their jobs on there, business jobs. So if you're looking for internships, seasonal, part-time, full-time, it's a great place to go and apply for jobs. It's free. It takes like 2 minutes to create your account, and you can apply. I applied the Orioles, I applied the Ravens, I applied, I think, to the Washington Redskins, and I found the HR recruiter job, and it's a phenomenal platform. I always recommend it. They don't pay me to say this, but so as far as an applicant tracking system, I'm the system. I'm the guy. So if you apply, just let me know, where you saw me, and we can have a conversation.
Awesome. Well, that's a great opportunity. And thanks so much for sharing that, Alejandro. That's super exciting. So as you think about what you're doing next, if you're looking for work, this could be a great opportunity. I know as a big Orioles and Ravens fan, I'd be jealous if you got to work with those wonderful organizations. But just want to finish off here with on a positive note with you all, and just really excited for all the interaction that we've had from our youth workers here. I know you don't necessarily have to ask questions, but you still do, and listen closely to the panelists that we've had throughout these sessions. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to all the audience members and to our panelists today. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful summer ahead, and have a great one.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.